welcome to the South Burlington City Council meeting for June 16th, 2025. We will start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Who would like to lead tonight? Andrew?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we'll have instructions on exiting this building in case of an emergency and a review of the technology options. Jesse Baker.
Thank you. So thanks to those who in the room who are joining us in person. If there's an emergency in the room, you can go out the rear of the auditorium and then turn left or right to get outside. For those participating remotely, thank you for joining us as well. If you'd like to speak during any item on the agenda, you can indicate that you would like to in the chat, and I will have the chair call on you. Other than that, we are not monitoring the chat for content.
Thank you, Jesse. Agenda review. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes in the order of our agenda items tonight? No. Okay. I'm going to item 4, which is comments and questions from the public not related to the agenda tonight. Oh, please come up, Mr. Donahue. You know the drill, right? Bright green light.
There we go.
There we go. We can hear you.
All right.
And please identify yourself.
My name's Kevin Donahue. I was here back on the May 19th meeting, and we talked about an error in the fire department report for a sale of a condominium. And at that time, I indicated that the fee should have been refunded on that, and also given that the mistake was made by Deputy Chief Francis 6 years ago, 2018, so, and we're in 25, sorry, 27 years ago now, that the money that was expended by my daughter to correct something that Deputy Chief Francis should have picked up should be reimbursed to my daughter by the city. Now, I will say I just had an informal conversation with Jesse about this. The opinion, it seems to be, is that while the city makes mistakes, the city doesn't really pay for any. They don't pay for their mistakes. They don't reimburse anybody. It's just a fact of life, from what I'm sort of understanding from our city manager. And also, she indicated that I'm not going to say the buck stops with her, but she has the authority to make that decision on her own, if I understood her correctly, not the city council in reimbursing this. I'm here again to basically say the city should be embarrassed about this situation. They should be embarrassed that, as I indicated before, in another incident where bills are sent to the wrong party continuously until the owner finds that they've been penalized with interest and penalties added on to a tax bill that has gone to the wrong address 3 times. I'm just going to appeal to you one more time. I do not want to, is the other paper here, do they still show up here? No. But the other paper, and it's to me a story worthy that what's going on here in South Burlington, that you will admit the mistakes, but you will not make any kind of restitution to the party that's been harmed. The other thing that I want to talk about, Tim, I emailed you 3 times at the city council's address, and I never heard from you. It was unlike you. I'm sure maybe you are busy. Then just to make sure that I had the correct address, I emailed you at your personal address and said, Tim, I don't want to email you at your personal address about city business. And I still didn't hear from you. So I don't know, as the young kids would say, I was ghosted or what was going on there. But we've known each other a long time. We go back to when I was on the committee for the police station and things of that nature. And I respect you, and I was quite surprised by it that I had not heard from you about it. So I'm just going to leave it. I have nothing more to add on this subject. I just hope it gets reconsidered, thought about, and going forward, I don't believe the city should be costing taxpayers money with mistakes that they're not willing to own. They will not so much own up to, but make the right decision. Say, "Look, we need to reimburse this person." It's not a lot of money you're talking about here, but it is the principle of the thing. I'm going to mention, just if I have just 2 more seconds, let's get off of that subject and on to one other one. Right turn on reds in this city. Jimmy Carter, I used to say it before he died, he would roll over in his grave if he knew we were beginning to take away the right turn on red. And at many of these intersections we have here, that there's absolutely no reason why a person can't turn right on red at many of the intersections that are going to no turn on red. And I did talk to Tim about it, about the intersection at, down by Farrell Street, Domino's, Pizza, Vermont Gas. You're coming down the hill, you can't make a right turn on red there. And it's the most ridiculous thing. And I was told it was, well, when the intersection got redone, the state gave a lot of money for that thing. And they said, we don't want any right turn on red here. You look around and you say, why can't I turn right on red? Somebody might come out of Vermont Gas every hour, every half hour maybe. What are you afraid of? You can't have a person turn right on red there. And it's happening at other intersections, at Allen Road, and it should stop. The whole idea, we've saved, a city like this would save millions of gallons of gasoline from people just sitting there idling at an intersection. That we give people licenses. They're supposedly good drivers. Many sometimes are not, but they still have their licenses. You have to trust the intelligence of a person to approach an intersection, analyze what's going on, and make that turn without taking that right away. Because we're wasting a lot of fuel and time. All right, that's it.
So Kevin, let me personally apologize for not answering your email. Totally dropped the ball on that. I wasn't sure if staff was aware of your, they listened, staff was here when you made your first comments like several weeks ago, but I didn't get back to you, and I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
So I will do better next time, I promise.
I'll still see you at the concerts in the park. We'll still chat, don't worry. But, okay, thank you for your time.
Welcome. Any other comments from the audience or the public? Anybody online? All right, then we will move on to councilors' announcements and reports on committee assignments. We'll start with Elizabeth.
It's a good start because I have no memory of what I've done in the last 2 weeks. I think I'll just report on the fact that the police chief interviewing process has started, and I'm sure Jessie will give a little bit more detail, but the advisory team that she had pulled together met today and last week for training, and then we'll meet tomorrow as well.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Lori, let's mix it up.
It was a busy couple of weeks since we last met in terms of meetings. We had several meetings last week, interviews, and then Parks and Rec and the Open Space Advisory meeting was this evening as well, and that's been reviewing the CRO work and looking at the overview presentation and identifying things that need to be added to the plan for a good comprehensive plan. And they are doing a pretty awesome job in my estimation. Have great things going on there. Sextons met and they are working on a beautification program for Eldridge Cemetery by the airport. There's a cleanup. There's a headstone restoration project on July 12th, and they're looking for volunteers for that. I'll advertise it in the Front Porch Forum one more time. And the flagpole lighting issue has come before us a few times. They've been around and around. They're finally pulling together a request around ordinances for flagpole lighting, which they will be presenting to us at some future date. And that's it.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yes, I was away last week, so unfortunately missed some meetings. But before that, had the committee interviews, which went well. I think we're incredibly fortunate as a city to have so many talented and experienced and energetic volunteers for our committees. We're really, really lucky. And we had a great group of folks to pick from. And then I attended an event at the airport, which was, I think, the christening of their new terminal. Quite an impressive piece of engineering, and a really nice event. And looking forward to that terminal opening.
Thank you. Mike?
Yes, yes. As you said, we have the committee meetings to choose people for the committee. We had a good turnout, and as you said, as Andrew just said, a lot of very talented people, and with that, hopefully, a variety of different voices, so the committees can play that key role of providing different policy views to help us shape our decisions. I also attended the airport, which was really a spectacular event, and just reminded me how much of a engine it is for us, and fortunate in South Burlington to have the vibrance that comes from them, the airport. Not only the access for us, for our businesses, for our citizens, but also increasingly the local option tax revenues and property tax revenues that it will generate to help us maintain the wonderful services we are so blessed with in South Burlington. I also, in terms of Green Mountain Transit, attended the union discussions, which are ongoing, the finance meeting, and the great quarterly meetings that we have with South Burlington staff. It's really wonderful to see how South Burlington staff and GMT staff really work hand in glove in terms of trying to maximize the win-win for both sides, in terms of expanding and increasing the options for local transit in a very predictable way for our population. And I think now with the city center as the anchor, we're just going to see that really start being an important part in people's lives. And that's important because it's also a key aspect of our city plan. Tomorrow will be a board meeting at which I expect we will take the decision at GMT to go ahead and begin creating 3 separate working groups that will lead to a working group that will focus just on Chittenden County or the greater Burlington area. And I think that process of refocusing that South Burlington is so related to will start to show some output. So that's about the key. But I think the other thing that I'm very happy to announce is that there'll be a decision, hopefully, in this city council meeting announcing my replacement and possibly Tim's replacement. And I think the decision, I just want to underscore, of having a staff person on it will mean that these wonderful productive meetings we've had quarterly will become a permanent process. That's it. Thanks.
Tim's replacement where? What? Okay.
Oh, you didn't hear it? You didn't get the letter?
Is that the end of your comments? Yes. Okay. I'll recover that. Thank you. So yeah, I attended the Economic Development Committee's report out by the Civic Soul Group, and I also attended the Skyline Burlington Airport Project Next celebration, which was sort of al fresco on the deck, which is the floor of their new terminal construction. There were speeches by Pat Leahy, John Rogers, the Lieutenant Governor, Mayor Emma from Burlington, and of course Nick Longo not only gave a speech, but also ended up singing to an animated cartoon behind him with his hat on backwards, sunglasses, a microphone, and the Arrow mascot was with him playing guitar. So that was pretty amazing. And we were waiting for South Burlington to be mentioned in the speech, and by the time they finally did, I clapped as loud as I could, and I got an applause around us, for South Burlington, and Mayor Emma turned around and gave me a high five. So I figured that was constructive. But it was a great soiree, and we really wish the airport luck in all their construction, because they are the second busiest airport in New England, if you didn't know that. And we were told that several times. I also attended both of those city council meetings where we interviewed some really great candidates for the committees. There was a planning commission meeting last week, and then last week on Wednesday there was a CCRPC sponsored pizza dinner with folks from CCRPC and Shelburne, other communities. Westford, Shelburne, Burlington had a city councilor. Where? Who else was there?
Essex.
Winooski, I'm sorry, Winooski, right. And it was just a round table general discussion about issues that the communities are facing and how we're dealing with it. It was good for us to sit around and talk about these things and then hear responses from Ted Brady, right, from VLCT, and we are going to make plans to do it again. So I look forward to that because I think it was a good thing to do, and hopefully we get some more people, different people too. So that's all I have, Jesse.
Great, thanks. So a couple of staff announcements tonight. The clerk's office is going to be closed this coming Thursday, June 19th for staff training and vault cleanout. So if you're looking for clerk things. Because Tom's in the room, I'm going to embarrass him with a wealth of information about, he's not even looking at me, construction projects. So more Alana than Tom at this point, but will become a capital project. The 89 bridge over the bridge, walk bike bridge over 89 is in bid phase because of some component supply timing. So it's a very extensive project. There's supply chain challenges. We are receiving bid questions about extending the substantial completion date of the project that's in the RFP to July 2028. So we have approved that. We think that if we don't approve it, the cost, we won't be able to get the material we need to build the bridge. And I'm sure I'm way oversimplifying that, but heads up that is in the works. Tom also shared that we had 2 other projects go out to bid last week, the Airport Parkway wastewater treatment plant solids upgrades and the Farrell Dog Park improvements. We had 2 constructions substantially complete last week, the Heinsberg Road force main repair and the Mary Street sidewalk. And then we have 3 construction projects that will begin this week. The removal of the travel agency at 1270 Williston Road that we own as part of the Williston Road, White Street intersection true up, the Dorset Street Phase 4 paving, and the Bartlett Bay stormwater treatment system expansion. So lots of capital projects underway. Additionally, kind of back to GMT for a minute, it's been determined that the stop bar on Market Street in Dorset needs to be pushed back about 30 feet to accommodate the GMT buses making that right-hand turn from Dorset onto Market Street. So Tom and Erica are doing some engineering work to try and figure out the best way to do that. That won't change until later in the summer, but is aligned to bringing those buses onto Market Street, which is a huge win for City Center. More or less correct, Tom? Excellent. Rich Donahue, our new Deputy Finance Director, started today. We're really excited to welcome him to the team. He will be here on June 30th at your tax rate setting meeting, so you can meet him then. The team from Oracle NetSuite, which is our new finance system, will be in the city July 8th through 10th for training. So again, continuing that lift on that new system. Maddie and I met with the library trustees last week to finalize the recruitment process and job posting for the library director. So that position will be posted this week. We have a pretty aggressive recruiting timeline to try and fill that before Jennifer retires in October. And the trustees are managing the public listening session. So they will have their public listening session on July 10th at 5:30. We had 500 people attend Touch a Truck this weekend, which was great. Also kick off to summer reading. And just a reminder to the community that SB Night Out starts on Thursday night with our Juneteenth celebration. And I know some of you will be there as well. Thanks.
I'll just jump in and say Touch a Truck was a really well done event, and the kids just loved it. And there were some big pieces of equipment there, which was really fun.
For the bridge, is the federal grant kind of like pre-funded, or do we draw it down as we spend it?
We draw it down, but it's allocated. So it is moved from the question mark to be spent to we are spending it, and we have gotten that noticed in the last few months.
And once it's at that stage, there's no ability of the federal government to claw it back? Is that the...
Well, I mean, I'm not speaking on behalf of the federal government for that, but we are as secure as we're possibly going to be, and that includes VTrans having also said, yes, we understand that we are all now on the hook for this, because it's a pass-through grant through VTrans. Tom, do you want to add anything to that? No. So we have as much certainty as we are going to get. Thanks.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. We now are on item 6, which is the consent agenda. And we have the following items. We have consider and sign the disbursements for the AP warrant and the water warrant. Item 6B, which is approve the updates to the employee handbook and adopt as presented. 6C, which is approve the award of final engineering contract for Bartlett Bay Road culvert replacement to Stantec. 6D, approve a multi-year contract for drinking water system management services between the Champlain Water District and the City of South Burlington. 6E, award the construction contract for the Garden Street West Shared Use Path and Utility Improvements Project to Engineers Construction Incorporated and the inspection contract to Greenman Peterson, and authorize the Director of Public Works to negotiate, execute, and amend the contracts consistent with the supporting documents. And 6F, which is approve the grant application request to submit a SAFER grant for funding towards 3 additional firefighter positions. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Could we pull off 6F for a brief discussion?
6F, sure. So can the motion be modified to remove 6F for now?
So amended.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Do you want to discuss that now, or you want to go ahead and pass the rest?
Whatever you prefer.
All those in favor of the amended motion say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. So now we will talk about 6F.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
I'll move my chair.
Thank you. Do you want me to go ahead and?
Sure,
Yeah.
please.
I did put a couple questions in writing, and I guess two questions or observations I have is one, this may be just, my orientation to how projects have come through for the fire department, but was there a master plan ever developed that sort of spoke to the equipment needs, the staffing needs? Because we have had a lot of, my observation is I've been involved in a lot of discussions on different investments in support of our fire department service. And I just kind of wanted to get the big picture because it seems like this, I don't know if this is the end of those requests or, because this is a commitment to the future, I believe. And I'm not opposed to the grant at all, but I just thought it would be a good opportunity, speaking for myself, to kind of step back and say, was there sort of a master plan and where are we at in that?
Sure. So I would say that I always look at the budget and strategic plan as the two major planning documents for the fire department. All of our facilities, vehicles, small apparatus, big trucks are all part of the capital plan. So that has been in development and being funded since I've been here in 2022. Our personal request, if you look back to my first budget to this council in 2022, highlighted our shortfall for ambulance coverage and our concern about not having dedicated shift commanders and the risk that presents. I've been consistent with that message every year during my budget session, which I think you've been to at least 2, maybe 3. If you look on my emerging issues, it has highlighted every time the vulnerability this community faces by not having dedicated shift commanders. So I think to answer your question, those two documents, budget and CIP and strategic plan, become our guiding principles. I think they are what I have outlined as vulnerabilities within the fire department, and I think we're being pretty consistent trying to move those forward.
And then my quick follow-on question is, when I looked and when we've had discussions about staffing, my understanding is the fire department was better off right now based on the recruiting retention issues that the police department is challenged with. And I just wanted to sort of ask the question and make sure we wouldn't end up in a trade-off situation down the road. And that maybe is more to you, Jesse, just around making a commitment to 3 additional staff funded partially by a grant for 3 years. Does it put us at any risk in terms of staffing other critical departments too?
So I think the advantage. So I understand why you're saying this is pre-committing future councils. Having said that, I think we have used SAFER as this in this community before as a way to minimize the impact on the taxpayer initially to build up to a future demand level we'll need down the road. This is a very competitive grant at the federal level. It's a long lead time application, meaning we'll put it in now and we may not hear for another 6 to 8 months. And at that point, if we were to be awarded, you also have to accept the funds. So this is just saying, yes, it's okay to go through the next step in the process. Likely that acceptance will be after we get through, the substantial part of the FY27 budget. So we'll have some more information about where we see revenues projected to be, where things are going. But I think the reality is, as a growing community, and this is part of your growth management conversation, we know there's going to be increased needs for providing public safety services and infrastructure services. And this is a way we can get ahead of that with a non-solely property tax requirement. And this is just giving us the kind of yellow light to say, yes, go forth and put in and see what happens. I can't say that there's never going to be a time in the future where you're weighing, do we add recreation staff or do we add a highway staff? I think that's part of the policy fiduciary oversight you hold. I think we are going to be faced with those questions in the coming years. But this is also a way to help bridge some of those conversations, especially between now and FY.
I appreciate that. I thought it was a good time to calibrate, and I know that I am supportive of the grant. I just thought it was a good opportunity to kind of calibrate and have that conversation, knowing we're going to be getting into budget season before too long anyway. But I appreciate that. Thank you both.
Can I ask a question? Does this sort of align also? As you said, you've been thinking in this way for a few years now, and working it into the plan. Is this aligned with the growth that we see, or is it driven anyway by the growth we anticipate in the TIF district, in the city center? And does that also, what I heard you, Jesse, I want to be sure that I understood you correctly, Jesse, as part of that growth in the TIF district and city center will also be a growth in revenues. So this is, the timing is sort of along those lines.
So yes, growth does bring added revenue. I think it's I think this community and council is still having that conversation about does it pay for itself, and how do we incentivize the things that will pay for itself? So I think adding the staff capacity over time is something that will be necessary, not just because of city center, but because of where we are choosing to how we are choosing to develop as a community. And we don't fully know what's going to pay for what yet. That's part of that larger growth management conversation.
And then just from a coverage, you think this is imperative to be sure that as we do grow, as we do have more dense population centers, we have the flexibility of your, as I understood, these leadership people to deploy individually to sort of hot areas.
Kind of twofold. I think one, this is like the last piece of the puzzle that has to be kind of put in place to have this department serve this community for the next several years, right? This is the last component. You've really taken care of the medical component, by and large, through some support with our neighboring agencies. We've been able to pretty well deploy the right number of people. We just have this one piece of the puzzle we need to put back in. And then at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's not so much about growth to me. It's about being able to serve our call volume. And we're doing things to proactively reduce our units deploying so that we increase their availability for the next call. And those are things that only serve you so well. You still have to add capacity. So it really is about, one, people use our services way more today than what people did 10 or 15 years ago, and then you add the population increase, those things just drive a call volume that that is different than what it used to be. And now we're a community that's we're over 5,000 calls for service per year, so it's not it's just not a small community anymore.
Okay, thank you.
That's sufficient? Can I have a motion to approve 6F now?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. So now we'll move on to item 7, which is approve resolution 2025-10 honoring the service of Mark Behr on the Development Review Board. Paul's not here, but do we have a resolution? We don't have Mr. Behr online. He can't attend apparently. Did we read this last time? We didn't read it. Okay. Does somebody have it in front of them? Want to read it? Okay, well, go ahead and read it then.
Happy to. City Council Resolution acknowledging 20 years of service to the Development Review Board, June 16th, 2025. Whereas on April 18th, 2006, resident Mark Behr interviewed for and was unanimously appointed to serve the remainder of a vacated term and a new 3-year term on the South Burlington Development Review Board. And whereas Mark applied for and has been reappointed to the board in 2011, 2014, 2017, and 2021. And whereas Mark served as chair of the board from December 2010 to January 2014. And whereas in that time, the board held over 450 public meetings, the vast majority of which Mark has attended and participated in, and whereas the board has heard and issued decisions on hundreds of applications that have helped to shape our community. And whereas throughout his ongoing tenure, Mark has demonstrated a constant and clear dedication to professionalism, transparency, and ethics in all aspects of his work. And whereas throughout his ongoing tenure, Mark has been committed to giving applicants, abutters, members of the public, and staff the opportunity to be heard. And whereas throughout his ongoing tenure, Mark has expertly and fairly adjudicated applications in accordance with the regulations adopted by the City Council. Now, therefore be it resolved that the City of South Burlington offers its deep appreciation for Mark's 20 years of service to the Development Review Board and enthusiastically reappoints Mark to a new 4-year term. 4-year term. Approve 4-year term. Thank you, Mark, for your service.
So we have this resolution. Can I have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. I'll start the discussion. I'll just say that I joined the DRB in 2011 and was grateful for Mark's leadership, especially when he was the chair, during the somewhat at times acrimonious discussions regarding the Chittenden Clinic trying to go into a building on Dorset Street because it was a methadone clinic, right? And he had to adjudicate the left side of the room and the right side of the room and let the applicants speak and take testimony from the crowd. And during the course of that meeting, there were various community members who changed their mind and became not opposed to it because of the, of his, persuasive powers of the argument and the appeal that was before us at that time. So I appreciate that. And also the fact that he's an architect, right? He has been able to lend within the regulations some of his aesthetic appreciation for small details on several buildings that would not look the way they were if the applicants hadn't been receptive to suggestions about things like that. So I think that he personally, along with the other actions of the DRB, have made the city look better than it could have because of that. So I really appreciate his service, and 20 years is a long time. So thank you very much, Mark, wherever you are, and we appreciate it. So all those in favor say aye.
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 And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 8, which is welcoming public comment on the FY26 policy priorities and strategies, the shared work plan between the council, leadership team, and the committees with Jesse Baker, City Manager.
Thank you. So as part of this year's policies and strategies process, you talked about providing an opportunity for public comment that's not at 9 o'clock on a Friday morning. So we wanted to intentionally put on the agenda. We did advertise this opportunity through City News as an opportunity for the community to come and weigh in on the city's priorities in advance of your conversation next Friday, June 27th. So that's the purpose of this time.
So we'll take public comment at this time. Ms. Bailey, did you want to, you're shaking your head. Okay. Now the auditorium is empty of any other public people. And we have two people online, Donna Levon and Barb Service. I don't see any hands raised. This is not generating a lot of interest from the public tonight, but they'll all be there at 9 o'clock probably on.
I have one comment that I received from at least one constituent, which was that we might want to consider changing the name from retreat, because retreats often are associated with team building and having fun and having whatever. And this is much more of a working meeting than a quote retreat. So it was just suggested that for public perception, there might be a better name for it than retreat. So I just thought I'd share that.
It's good feedback.
Well, we could do that too.
I'm thinking a small lake in the Adirondacks, right, with a sweat house and a huge stone, lodge.
I
And
was thinking Red Rocks Beach.
oh, so there's no input from the public. Okay. All right. Well, they'll have another chance.
Can I make one
Sure.
quick comment about the working meeting? So the leadership team met last week, to put together our set of recommendations. It is going to be a different kind of meeting than we've had before. I will get the working meeting language down. There are so many things that we are kind of midstream on that I think it's going to be challenging to make a lot of changes. So just putting that out there. We also hadn't received the committee work plans when we met for our leadership team report, or leadership team working meeting. So I am planning to put some dedicated time on your agenda to talk about those committee work plans. Finally, given police chief interviews and lots of other things this week, we are going to warn this meeting on Thursday, or on Friday. Traditionally, we do that on Thursday, so you have that extra day. But because this meeting will be a week after the warning date, I'm going to take the advantage of having an extra day to put together materials for you. So don't look for that on Thursday. It will come to you on Friday. And the community, of course.
So acknowledging what you just mentioned about the difficulty of changes, when and should we be sending in our priorities for the meeting?
So that wasn't part of the process we outlined this year. You are welcome to send them in any time. We have not integrated those ideas into our recommendations at this point. If you would like to send them in advance, I'd be happy to aggregate them for you to look at.
And a lot of them are already on a document that we submitted,
bike rack.
and the bike rack.
Yes, all of that is still incorporated.
Going to need a bigger bike rack.
Going to need a bigger bike rack, yes.
Any other discussion on this? All right. We'll move on to item 9, which is approve resolution 2025-11, adjusting the composition of the Energy Committee to 9 people. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Do we need to read that? It's pretty short. Who has it in front of them would like to read it?
Whereas the City of South Burlington established an Energy Committee in June 2011 with changes from time to time. And whereas the current City Council is interested in ensuring a strong and nimble committee, therefore be it resolved that the City of South Burlington establishes a number of positions on the City's Energy Committee at 9 members, all with 3-year terms and effective July 1st, 2025.
So can I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Move to adopt this
Second.
resolution.
And we have a second by Andrew. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's approved unanimously. Thank you. Now we'll go to item 10. We're going too fast. We're going to take a break for an hour. Is that okay? Item 10, appoint members to the city's policy and statutory committees and boards.
So you held 2 meetings where you interviewed candidates for policy committees and boards. You then held an executive session and talked about appointments. Following that, you have in front of you, as part of your agenda, the summary that I heard in that conversation. Of course, you have not made a decision at this point. You have to take action on those appointments in public setting and have finding that the candidates are the most qualified by content area and representing a diverse set of perspectives to serve on the committees as indicated. I will note, following this memo going out, that there are two things I want to bring to your attention on it, if I can do that before
Sure.
your discussion.
Yeah.
So one is the Planning Commission appointments. Should be a 4-year appointment and a 3-year appointment. So I would recommend you just take the 3-year and make it a 4-year, and the 2-year and make it a 3-year, as indicated. And then just because we've been in contact with one of the candidates, Chris Kerrigan, who's an applicant to the Economic Development Committee. All the terms on the Economic Development Committee are 3 years. He is only interested in serving for 2 years. That's not how you typically appoint, and we've said that everyone's welcome to serve as long as they would like, but I just wanted to communicate that to you in case that changed a decision you would like to make. That's all those.
Yep.
That's all I have.
That's good. Is everybody comfortable with those?
Yes.
Small change in the years for the Planning Commission and the announcement about the Economic Development Committee. So we need somebody to read the motion for these assignments.
On June 5th, read the,
There's a motion
City Council.
on the
The motion is the
on
City Council identifies
Yeah.
the following candidates as the most qualified by content, area, and representing a diverse set of perspectives to serve on the relevant committees, and hereby appoints the listed candidates for the identified terms and committees effective July 1st, 2025.
second.
So I think, Mike, you moved that, okay, and Andrew seconded. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 And it's unanimous. We have filled out as much as we can all the committees for which we had the interviews. Thank you. Now we're at item 11, which is appoint council liaisons to the city's policy committees and planning commission. Jesse Baker.
Thank you. So now that you have newly situated committees, I want to give you an opportunity to revisit liaisons. We, I think, last did this around this time last year with these appointments. And you certainly can keep the same, or you can change them. The only one that cannot change is by charter, the chair sits as the liaison to the Planning Commission. So you can't change that. And you don't need to take action, but wanted to provide you the opportunity if you wanted to.
So,
But there's one that has to be filled. Just
Right,
for
well,
continuity,
so-
so I'd encourage one of my colleagues to step up. I'd appreciate it.
yeah, I would like to fill the bike ped. It would actually make it easier for me because I have this standing conflict with the Energy Committee. That's been really hard, as I mentioned it before. So if I can shift from Energy to bike ped, that would be really good.
And I think that'd make a lot of sense, Andrew. Thank you for stepping up because you've been heading or the liaison for the Safe Roads to School, and that's now being folded into that committee. So I think you'll help with that. There's going to be some massaging there needed.
So that leaves a hole in energy then, right?
It does.
Anybody want to volunteer for energy? I mean, I will if I have to, because I was once before, and it's a great group of people, and I love the subject matter, but I'm not committed to doing that. I don't know. Elizabeth, did you have any?
I'm pretty tied up with the 2 that I'm on, although we don't know what will happen with the charter. I know these are the city appointments, but I know, Mike, you're serving on some other areas, and I did have an interest in potentially backfilling Mike's position as the number 2 on the airport committee.
Okay.
But there may be some others that have to be discussed at some point. I don't know when we'll have that opportunity.
Well, it's going to be temporary.
Right, well, I was gonna say, Mike, do you want to keep it until the 18th? The Energy Committee?
Wait.
Till the 18th of July.
We need to do the energy for one.
So that you will,
That's awkward.
you
What I
will
was
have a
saying
new
is
counselor.
we will be having a new council member, and
Yeah.
so we'll be reassigning at that point.
There'll probably only be one meeting where there's no liaison, which I think they could survive that probably.
Okay.
So I
Yeah,
suggest
I don't
we
mind covering that meeting if it doesn't,
I suggest we revisit this when we have a full council.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. All right. Thanks. So moving on to item.
So you're just tabling for now, you're not
think
taking
so,
no action?
yeah.
Or do you want to do
No, I
the-
would like to affect the
Oh.
change we talked about.
Okay.
Can you make that
Okay.
change
We'll
then?
make that motion then.
I move to
To move.
for myself to become the liaison to the bike ped committee and to not going forward be the liaison to the energy committee.
I second that move.
So we have motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. And
Tim,
Yes.
could I don't know if this is appropriate, Kim, when this comes up again, when a new council member's named, could we include the other areas of responsibility that each of us might have in terms of representation that aren't committee related?
sure. I think that's a great idea. Write that down. All right. Item 12, appoint a commissioner and alternate to the Green Mountain Transit Board.
So, as I said, in the cover sheet with Councilor Scanlon stepping down, also stepping off that commissioner seat, we had a conversation, staff and the GMT team that have been meeting with Councilor Scanlon about those appointments. We have developed a really, I think, productive staff relationship with the data analysis we did about routing, what the conversations we're doing about bike stops on Market Street. There's some interest in keeping that link, a staff to staff link, as this GMT is so critical to meeting our climate goals and to meeting our growth and housing goals, or more, not our growth goals, our housing goals. Alana and Paul are willing to serve in those capacities. There is precedent with this. The Public Works Director in Burlington serves as the commissioner. So you see this in the larger communities where that is a staff role. Having said that, it's quite a lift. So if another counselor is interested in stepping into that lift and following Mike, you are welcome to do that, but we wanted to give you a staff-to-staff option.
If I can just add, seeing, when I started work, we initiated this staff meeting. And that is just, from my perception, did an incredible benefit to GMT, but it's also been an incredible benefit for us in terms of what we want to see with the public transport evolving. And I think making that a sort of permanent link and actually a month-to-month link, which the board meetings is split of quarterly, I think will just benefit us tremendously.
So you're supportive of not having a counselor fill this role?
Yes, I think it's my sense is we got so much done in those quarterly meetings, and if that kind of engagement from South Burlington can be a part of the board every month, I think it will just serve us extremely.
Who are the other members on the board?
Volunteers from other other municipalities. The one exception, as Jesse said, is the staff person who's head of public works in Burlington, and he brings also a lot of useful perspective and knowledge. But I also think it's benefited Burlington quite tremendously. So I personally think it's, based on my experience, really in our interest to do so.
So, Mike, how many meetings did you attend per month, do you think?
There's a board meeting once a month. There's a finance meeting once a month.
Yeah.
I think very likely the goal obviously is to eventually get on the leadership, which adds another meeting a month. And I would think that depending on who we nominate, we could likely the treasurer position will be coming open. I think if we nominate the people slated, we would be able to be in a good position to be the treasurer, which means that they meet more frequently than a regular commissioner. And then in my case, I was also asked to be the board member on the union meetings, which are weekly. So it can be quite.
That's a lot of
It can
meetings.
be quite time consuming.
Yeah.
And now we're going to have this working group just on the GMT reimagining Chittenden County, which will add another meeting.
Wow. Do Alana and Paul have the bandwidth for that with their current responsibilities?
Well, sure, no. But I think because there are some, not those meetings, but there are meetings they are already a part of with Mike anyway. So I think keeping that, they're going to be involved in the GMT route planning and service delivery either way. So it is a little added capacity for them, certainly significant added capacity for Alana, but I think it's to the greater end goals of the city, appropriate use of her time.
And Mike, how much constituent feedback did you receive that you were able to funnel into some of those meetings?
Constituent feedback is usually elicited by GMT directly.
Oh, it is, okay.
Through public mission. And they had their meeting here as last Monday. But usually it's me basically hearing and using our city plan as the guide in my engagement with GMT, making it useful for GMT, which is obviously creating greater ridership, but also great for us in terms of what we want to achieve with public transit for our city.
And as the budget crunch evolved, that generated more meetings, right?
Oh, yes, and that will continue for probably until about 2027, 28, as the reimagination process works out.
Right.
I'd like to appreciate Mike for the remarkable effort that he's put into working with GMT on behalf of.
Yeah, that was a lot of work. That's a lot of time. I agree.
And I just want to acknowledge that because it's a big lift that you've done for us. And I like the idea of this becoming a staff responsibility, but I would like to make sure that we maintain somehow the regular communication that Mike has brought to us around what's been going on, because I think there are a lot of policy decisions that are involved with the GMT process, and I think having that direct link is important. So if Alana and Paul take it over, I want to make sure that we get regular reports from them on what's taking place.
How quickly do minutes come out of those meetings?
To be honest, I don't know. I usually just write up my own minutes and share it with the staff,
Yeah.
so they get it every, the same. Usually, I'm reporting or sharing what's coming out of it with Jesse and Tame,
Right.
An hour after the meeting.
Right.
And then obviously the goal is not to share all the meetings, all the minutes, but the pertinent stuff to us for making decisions and how to factor it in, as well as making GMT aware of the decisions we are making that would benefit them, because it really is a win-win.
So, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, it may, assuming we move forward with this, it might be good to have Alana and Paul provide feedback after a reasonable period of time if they feel it would be beneficial for South Burlington to have a council representative in addition to or in support of what they are doing.
I believe that I'm the only, there's the Essex Junction's board member is a councilor member, but I think we're the only two councilor members. Everyone else is a volunteer, sort of like on a committee perspective.
Because it can be a community member as well.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Right.
Correct.
Kind of like Chris Shaw serves in this
Yeah.
role for CCRPC.
Right. And Tom
So-
Chittenden was their board chair for a while. Yeah. So, well, I support this, but I think we should come back and revisit it as we get feedback and understand, and when we have a new counselor, to determine if we should look at putting a counselor back in, or a community member who would be interested in doing it, somebody who has the time, right? Because I don't think you could have a day job and go to all those meetings, right? So.
And again, if it's a community member, I want to make sure we have that same channel back to
Right.
us for
Right.
communication.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and approve this for now. Can I have a motion to approve it?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Going on to item 13, which is review the significant agenda topics below for our July 7th meeting.
Yes, thank you. So just a reminder, this is your next regular meeting, but you have 3 meetings between now and then. The steering committee will meet on Wednesday upstairs in 301 with the school board. Immediately following that meeting, you'll have a special meeting of yourselves to talk about the counselor applicants and provide direction to me on how you want to move forward. And then June 30th, you'll have your annual tax rate setting meeting, which is pretty much solely for that purpose. We may have a few consent agenda items. So for your next regular meeting, it is second reading and public hearings and possible action for the fire prevention and protection ordinance, for the electrical installation ordinance, and then the fees associated with those 2 ordinances, then the transportation impact fee ordinance, and then potentially interviewing and or appointing candidates for city council. And of course, we also have our steering committee, which I didn't say, on June 27th. You have 4 meetings between now and then.
What was the last thing you said? The
Policy and
Steering,
priorities,
the policy and,
yeah,
policy.
right,
27th, right?
Yes, yeah.
I have a question about the council applications.
Yes.
I just want to make sure, is it okay to be reaching out to the applicants individually, directly by counselors, to have conversations with them? I don't know what the protocol is, and I would be interested in potentially doing that with some of the applicants to better know them as I'm making a decision about how to move forward. And I don't know what the protocol is, so I want to get clear.
So I think that's a discussion for you all to have as individual
brought it
elected
up. I don't know
officials.
what
Yeah,
the-
sorry. I'll let you.
Sounds perfectly appropriate to me.
I would assume it's appropriate, but before doing it, I wanted to talk to the other counselors and say, I have interest in reaching out to some of the applicants to better understand who they are so that I can make a more informed decision about,
I'm just thinking out loud. But we're going to be meeting about this Wednesday evening, right? In a special meeting. So I wonder if we should, and I'm assuming we'll have discussion about where the process goes from there. I wonder if we can table that conversation at least till the meeting Wednesday, because no decision's getting made then, right?
that's fine with me. I just wanted to make sure that there's enough of a runway to be able to have effective back and forth conversation.
I'm comfortable with waiting till Wednesday, if you are.
It's fine with me.
Mike? Sure, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Well, then, 14, other business. Is there any other business?
The only other thing I just wanted to, I think city staff may be considering this, but just something that came up in our committee conversation or applicant conversations of some nominal compensation that might allow community members to participate in committee meetings if there's some hardship in doing that. And I would just leave it at that. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know how it would be offered, but because we heard it, I think it, and I believe there may be some consideration being given, or at least other communities are having to consider that too.
That was talked about at the CCRPC meeting that we had, and some communities offer a stipend if people ask for it. There was also an interesting conversation about council stipends, and it was noted that the city of Brattleboro has $8,000 for their council members per year and $10,000 for their chair. But it was also noted that they have a heck of a budget problem. So, interesting conversation. We'll leave it where it is.
But Burlington is $3,300, I think.
I don't remember.
Something like that.
But the issue of stipend and the idea that some cities do it as something that people can ask for, but it's not necessarily given, was an interesting concept that I hadn't considered.
It was like $50 per meeting attended or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It was an offer. You didn't have to take it if you didn't want to. So, yeah. Any other business? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Don't go anywhere. We have to sign some things.
Well done.